Hey, what's going on, guys? Asian Eyes White Dragon here. So this deck profile is going to be of a Tourguide Monarch variant, and it is after the March 2012 ban list. So this deck is actually going to be really good this format, especially of what's going to be played. Because if you look at it, Six Samurai's got a boost, Lightsworn got a boost. What do those two decks always lose to? They will lose to Frog Monarchs nearly every time. And the reason why Lightsworn loses is just because Battle Fader hurts them so much, and they have answers to JD literally every turn, and you can just, essentially beat Lightsworn with their own cards. Like, if they go to summon JD, activate effect, blow up, like, your Monarch, and you're like, and then go attack directly, and you're like, okay, Battle Fader, okay, let me bring back Treeborn, let me Econ take your Judgment Dragon, and then sack either the Treeborn that comes back during the standby phase or whatever, and then you can essentially just push for game right there, because you're going to hit him for 5,400 damage. And this deck is just really good against Six Samurais, just because this really hurts Six Samurais. I mean, once you activate Econ, they're like, oh, okay, I have to negate with Shien, and then you can just Econ again, or you can Dark Hole them, realistically, whatever happens. And on top of that, mostly just because Caius hurts that deck so much, especially when Shien is still at 1, just remove that Shien, and then it's gone. You don't have to deal with it. And it's not like they're going to like run Boreal from a different dimension. But and it's really good because you have like the Veilers and Maxis, that stops windups, that stops Insectors from being good. And Insectors can't really hurt Monarchs too much. You only have, your field literally almost every turn is, okay, Monarch, or just like one card. And Insectors have to pop to get that effect to, add after Centipede, because usually, the basic combo is Dragonfly, get Centipede on the field. But if they can't pop with Centipede, what are they going to do? Just Exceed? And then you can like, oh, okay, it's cool, I'll just Econ that Exceed, or I'll just, send that Exceed back to the extra deck, or just remove it. There's a lot of options in this deck, and I feel like this deck is relatively good. With creature swaps, it's just a really solid deck. So let's get into the deck profile finally. So we got a double Battle Fader, solves those OTK problems. Good with creature swap, good for Monarch Tribute. Next up, Blockbuster Soldier, pretty darn good card. Yes, the only light in here is Effect Failure, unless you tend to go for any Synchroing. But yeah, I mean, I feel like BLS is just way too good. Plus, if you happen to draw BLS early on, you can Tourguide into Sangan, and then after Sangan dies, you can just search out that Veiler. I feel like this card is just way too good not to be playing, especially because Monarchs can finish games relatively quick, because you can Econ a monster, you can then sack for a Monarch, and then perhaps remove the back row, top deck the back row, and if it's not chainable, you can just go, okay, BLS game. I really like this deck. And then next up, we're playing Darkharm, just because Tourguide helps with that. You got the Trigodias, you got Caius's, relatively good, and again, it allows Monarchs to just finish off games, because Monarchs can finish off people quite quick just with those Econs. And the next up, 3 Veiler, Gores, and Maxis, prevents those OTKs, and it's just overall solid. And then Ryza, overall solid card, especially against like Lightsworn sometimes when they set a Raikou, and you're like, oh, they go Charge Light Period, set Raikou, and you're like, okay, it's cool, you can top deck the Raikou. And again, like, Ryza and Caius just make it so Lightsworns don't go to the graveyard. And, obviously Caius hurts Lightsworn decks a lot more. But, yeah, I mean, you don't want to top deck a Judgment Dragon unless you're gaming them. But, generally, Caius really hurts Lightsworn. I mean, there's nothing that gets over it really in Lightsworn other than Judgment Dragon. And when you remove that Lightsworn that's already on the field, it hurts them. Or, some Lightsworn players do play Card Trooper, and you can use it so they don't get to draw one. Next up, we're playing Sangan, because of the Tourguides. 2 Swap Frog, 2 Treeborn is kind of like how the Frog engine works. Then we are also playing 2 Tragodia, relatively good. And I do like to keep the Tragodias in there just because you contribute it. And Monarchs, you always have cards in your hand because you can only use like 2 to 3 cards per turn. Generally, that's how the Monarch deck works. So you'll have lots of cards in your hand, so you don't have to worry about that. And since you have lots of cards in your hand, wind-up players like to go for the loop, but you have the Maxis, and an off chance you could use Veiler. But most of the time they'll be able to get off the play anyways. That's it for the Frog engine and the monsters there. And then there are no traps. There was Trap Dash Shoot, but it did get swapped out for this card, which I added in Cyber Dragon. It's really good against windups when they go for like end turn. If they go for Zen mains, it's just really good. Plus, it is another light target essentially, which I just added. So I didn't mention it earlier, but that's basically the only change that I did for the March 2012 ban list. But yeah, Cyber Dragon's relatively good. It hurts Karakurs as well. And I feel like Monarchs have a pretty decent matchup against Karakurs anyways. depending if they open up really good or not. But yeah, duality helps out with consistency of the frog area there, because yeah, it's really good just first turn be able to get that Treeborn Frog in the grave. That's really essential. And then we're also playing Double Creature Swap just because trading Treeborn Frog for other cards that are a lot better are pretty good. The next up we have Dark Hole. We have 3 enemy controller. We also have Heavy Storm, Mind Control, because I think this card is too good, especially when you take Lightsworn cards, or if you need to like take Xian. Obviously they'll just be like, oh, Cal negate, and then you can just econ Xian or whatever you need to do. Then we're playing Reborn, 3 duality, and lastly the Cyber Dragon. There's no strange cards in here other than this card right here, Locomotion R Gen X here, and that's basically because if you happen to be able to reborn someone else's Birdman, then you can make that with Caius here. I wish I had room to put in Birdman, and I was thinking about putting in either Birdman or Cyber Dragon, and I decided to play Cyber Dragon just because there are some machine decks that are essentially, windups really is what it's kind of there for. That and plus card curries, lose to Cyber Dragons. Plus I needed the more lights for BLS, it just kind of worked out better. But yeah, if you happen to have a card that you don't like in here, I would suggest Jenna Alex Birdman. But yeah, this is going to be a deck profile for the Monarch, Tourguide Monarchs, and it has a really good matchup against a lot of the different decks that got support, which are basically Lightsworn and 6 Samurais, and those will be kind of popular decks just because everything in Lightsworn was just reprinted again, and 6 Samurais are relatively an inexpensive deck to run. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this deck profile, because I think it really has a good matchup against 6 Sams and Lightsworn, which are going to be 2 decks that are going to see some play, and those decks obviously can just win just from the sheer factor of they have a really good boss monster. But 6 Samurais will lose to this deck almost every time. Realistically, unless they open up with like triple 6 Sam Uniting Gateway. But in that case, pretty much any deck will lose. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think of the deck. Asian Eyes White Dragon, signing out.